Kakadosh, we're going to continue on Masechet Betzah Daf Masechet Amud Aleph 38a1. So we asked the following question. So we asked the following question on this Beitzah. Ma'ishna lekanu lekan delo de'em breira. Mizrach u'ma'arav nami breira, which means why do we say that the reason why you can't go if there's two chachamim coming? So I can't go. You remember we said there were two rabbis coming and you didn't know which. So you can't go to both sides, right? Why? Because there's no breira according to him, right? De'em breira, mizrach u'ma'arav nami breira. What does that mean? Even if the chacham was only going to come from one side, but you have a doubt for which kivun he's coming, that also should be a problem. That if you don't hold a breira, it shouldn't help. Meaning, why do we have to we made the case where you had two rabbis, one rabbi in the north, one rabbi in the south. You don't know which one, so you can't use both. Even if you only had one rabbi, but you just don't know which one it was, if you don't hold a breira, so it shouldn't help that retroactively it's going to come out and you're going to know where is it coming from. Okay? The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says of Yochanan, Ukvar b'chacham, and we're talking about, so the answers of Yochanan, the way to get out of this question is the chacham already came. So since the chacham already came, you knew exactly where he was. Since you know where he was, it wasn't breira. You knew that he was already in the south, or you knew he was already in the north, or whichever one, whether it was east or west, or whichever the direction was. Alma, so you see from here, let Rabbi Yochanan breira, that obviously Rabbi Yochanan does not hold the concept of breira. So says the Gemara, Ela leolam lo tipuch. So really, we're not going to flip it around. If you remember, we wanted to flip around the Rabbi Shaya and Rabbi Yochanan. We wanted to switch them. So now we're saying you're not switching them. When does Rabbi Shaya say that he doesn't hold the breira? That's to do with the din doraita. That means to do with the din doraita. For example, the tum'ah of the entrances and the deceased inside, and we don't know which entrance they're going to leave. Right? They're going to depart from. There we do not hold of breira because there it's doraita. But in a din d'rabbanan, for example, tchumin is d'rabbanan, right? So tchumin, which is d'rabbanan, he does hold of breira. Darash Morzutra also taught publicly that there is breira also to do with dinim d'rabbanan, but there's no breira in doraita. So anything which is mina Torah, no breira. If it's midrabbanan, there is breira. Right? That's how we're passing. Okay, very good. Amar Shemuel. Shemuel says, Shor shel patam, areu keragle kol adam. The shore that a person comes and he's fattening him up. Usually what they used to do was they used to fatten them up in order to sell them, right? You want to come and you want to sell a big fat shore. So what do? You start fattening them up. You start giving them a lot to drink and to eat and this. So shor shel patam, areu keragle kol adam. So it's permitted to anybody that's going to purchase it. They're allowed to come and they're allowed to take it wherever the tchum is. Shor shel ro'eh, but a shor av a ro'eh, which means the ro'eh is of the shepherd, that he's growing them up. And he's the one that's usually coming to sell them sometimes to the other people. So then it's like that city. Right? That means even if the ro'eh himself put it on another side of the city, it doesn't matter, his tchum is not chal, because since anyway he usually sells it to the people of the city, so therefore from the beginning you already know he was going to probably sell it. Okay, fine. Two dots. If you're going to lend, right, or borrow a utensil from your friend on Erev Yom Tov, so he said it goes after the borrower. Why? You borrowed it. It's in your possession. So now it's in your legs. That means wherever your legs can take you, you're allowed to go. So says the Gemara Pshita, obviously, why not? So says the Gemara Lo Tzicha, what are we dealing with? Shelo mesaro lo ela b'Yom Tov. You only gave it to him on Yom Tov. So since he only gave it to him on Yom Tov, I would have thought to say that it's not the borrower's, meaning it goes after the owner, but still, right? It wasn't in his possession. Kamashvaran comes teach you that since from Erev Yom Tov he already told them, I'm going to lend you this animal, I'm going to lend you this, so it's already he gave it to him, even though he didn't actually get to his possession until Yom Tov. Okay? This is a proof to Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, if somebody is going to borrow a utensil from his friend on Erev Yom Tov, even though you didn't give it to him, only on Yom Tov. So there's a proof. That means even though it only got to the other person, the borrower's possession on Yom Tov, the fact that he was certain that he was going to get it on Yom Tov, so that was already considered that he already got it. So therefore, it's like kiraglei shoel. It's like the legs of the borrower. Okay, fine. Two dots. We said if somebody's going to borrow it on Yom Tov, so areu kiraglei mash'il. right? But this is only if you were borrowing it on Yom Tov itself. Meaning before Yom Tov, I knew nothing about it. Somebody comes, they want to borrow something on Yom Tov. So therefore, it's like the legs of the lender. Why? Because there was nothing mentioned before Yom Tov. So it's like the legs of the lender, right? So says the Gemara, Pshita, obvious, right? Says the Gemara, no, he always borrows 6. You already know it's your neighbor. Every single day, he's coming to borrow something. So you already know. Still, Mao the time I would have thought to say, it's like it's already in his possession. Comes teach you, sometimes maybe the neighbor might forget and he might borrow it from somebody else instead of driving you crazy. I mean, sometimes the neighbor will go to somebody else, not only going to go to you. So because of that, it's not considered that. That means the chidush. But the question was, obviously, if the guy came on Yom Tov, it's not in your possession. So no, he always comes to borrow things from you on Yom Tov. So since he always comes to borrow things from you, so it's kilu that you already lent it to him. So it says, so then what's the problem? So he says, no, maybe he found somebody else. If he found somebody else to borrow it from, he's not going to drive you crazy. So because of that, it's not in your possession. Okay, the next 2 dots. Also a woman that she borrows from her friend, whether we're talking about the spices and the water and the salt and everything for her challah. So then we said it's like both of them, because each one they're going to impede. So you could only go according to the maximum of both. Because so Rabbi Abba went from Babel to Israel, he said in his tefillah, Be'ezrat Hashem, I should say something that they should accept it. Yeah, that means basically what he was trying to say was, imagine right now I'm going to come to Michai and I'm going to tell him something. He's not going to accept it. So I'm going to feel, it's not lo naim kaze. You understand? But what was the tefillah? The tefillah was, Be'ezrat Hashem, that when I get there, I want to say something that everybody would accept. I want to say something that everybody would come and say, wow, you know what? We accept it. It's a good, whatever you just said. Right? Kisalik, so when he went up, Ashkechel Rabbi Yochanan, he found Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Zerav, Amin, and some people say Rabbi Yahuv, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yisrael, V'yatvi v'kamne, and they were saying, Amai, why? Why isn't there a ter to go, right? Only in the shetach, in the parameters of both women. Why? So v'livtil mayim u'melach legabe Isa. The water and the salt should be batel to the Isa. Meaning, what's the ikar? The dough. So the water and the salt should be batel, should be annulled. So what do I care now that they got the water from I don't care about that. It should be batel. If it's batel, I only go after the dough. And that's it. So Amar lehu Rabbi Abba, says Rabbi Abba. He comes and he answered, right? La Masechta Mubet. Yeah, 38b. Okay? So he says, Hare shenitarev lo kav chitin basara kabin chitin shel chavero yochal hala vechade. He says, imagine right now if a person is going to get mixed up one of his kavs of chitin, okay, with 10 kabin of chitin of his friend, right? So now what? Can the other guy of the 10 kabin come and say he's going to eat everything, and then he's going to say Chazak Baruch? Imagine Baba Haki has 1, I've got 10. They get mixed up with mine. Now I'm going to come, I'm going to eat them all up, and then I'm going to say Chazak Baruch. Why? They got mixed up with mine. Says so the same thing, right? At the end of the day, your water and salt came into my dough. It got absorbed inside, but it's still your water and salt. So now what? I'm just allowed to eat it up and there's no problem? Obviously not. So that's why we're saying that when the woman comes and she borrowed water and salt from her friend, even though it got absorbed in the dough, it still belongs to both. It's both of their entities, right? It belongs to both of them. So they started laughing at him. So imagine, he comes and he went and he made a whole tefillah. Yeah, this is Rabbi Abba. He went and he made a tefillah. Be'ezrat Hashem, they should accept my words. And they come and they start laughing at him. Why? Amar lehu, they told Rabbi Abba, Gultaichu shakli. Yeah? So he went and he told them, Rabbi Abba told them, what? Did I take your clothing? You're laughing at me? Well, what's going on over here? Yeah, the Gemara is going to explain exactly why were they, what was going on here. He comes and he tells them, right? What? They took off, right? I took your clothing. You're laughing at me. Hadurach. Again, they laughed at me. So something's wrong here. What's going on? He said something so funny, but what's going on? So Amar Rav Osher says, Shapi Ravi Dechule. It was good that they were laughing at him. Why? What's the reasoning why he didn't mention chitim with seorim? Right? Why? He says for sure the reason is davale min b'shenomino, because it's not the same species. Min b'shenomino batel. Min b'shenomino is going to be batel. Chitim b'chitin nami. right? To do with chitin and chitin. Nehid del Rabbi Yehuda lo batil, even though according to the rabbis it's not batil, right? To Rabbi Yehuda it's not batil. Sorry, according to the Rabbanan, if till batil it is batil. So therefore, if you hold that there's a Torah bitul mim memino, like Rabbanan, there's no difference between the Torah bitul of this and right and the Torah bitul min mishelo mino. So therefore, if he holds that tarovet of chitim and seorim are considered like that the chitim are not there, so then it's going to be completely batel. So then you could also hold the tarovet of chitim and chitim. It's going to be the same thing because according to the chachamim, it's the same halacha. So if so, in our case, even though you have melach and mayim, water and salt, getting up mixed up, it's considered min bemino. So therefore, it should be batel, also to do with the ba'alut, with the ownership. So therefore, the question still stands in its same place. Why is it that it's not batel? It should be batel. If you're going to tell me it's batel, once it's annulled, it's not here. So that's what we hear, it's annulled. To me, it's the same species. Or even if so he comes and he says, Amalei Rav Safra, Moshe, right? That's like Kilu Moshe Rabbeinu. Shapir Kamarta, right? It's good what you said. Velo shmiya lehad de'amar Rabbi Chia katosfa nishmed Rav. But he didn't hear the words of Rabbi Chia katosfa in the name of Rav. Haborer tzrorot migorno shel chavero. Imagine a person comes and he takes out avanim ktanot, small stones, right, from chitim, right? So he says, chayav l'shalem lo dmei chitim. So he's obligated to pay dmei chitim, right, in the shiur of the tzrorot that he took out. Why? Because since the bala chitim could sell it with that, and now you took it out, I could charge you for it. Which means like this: I could sell you a certain product with a certain amount of waste in it. For example, nowadays they do it all the time. They sell you a can, and there's the net weight, and then there's the weight with the liquid. Okay? Or, for example, I could sell you meat, and I could sell you meat with the bone. But now I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you, yeah, but take out the bone. Yeah, but 1 second, I could have sold it to you with the bone. So now, even though I take away the bone, I could still charge you for the bone. Why? Because the fact that I could still charge you for it, so for even though you took it out, I could still charge you for it. Right? That's what the rabbis are saying. So what he's trying to say is, if you're going to be boret sroro, you're going to take away the stones from a goren, the storage house of your friend, you're obligated to pay him the value of the chitim of everything. Alma, so you see from here, hila chasre, right? You're now lacking from the midah of the chitim, so therefore it's not going to be batel. Hachanami, so too here, hila chasre, right? There's going to be chaser, right, from the midah, and therefore it's not going to be batel. Okay? So Amalei Abaye comes and he tells Rav Safra, "Velo shani le'lemor ben mamon sheyesh lo tovin le'mamon she'en lo tovin." Says 1 second, but there's a huge difference between money, which somebody's demanding the money, and money that nobody's demanding the money. Which means by the tzrorot, right? If you're going to tell me that it's considered the money, right? So therefore he's coming and he's saying that as if to say that ki'ilu he wants to come and he wants to demand the money for it. But here, right, the ba'alim cannot get the money for it. Right, because now you only gave water and salt. So on Yom Tov, nobody could come to you and start telling you, "Give me the money for the water and the salt." Right. So he says, because of that, he says there's a huge difference. By the case of the stones, right, the guy could come and say, "Listen, you made me lose money because beforehand I could have sold you the wheat with a little bit of garbage, right? And now all of a sudden I can't sell you the wheat. Now I have to sell you pure wheat. So now I'm losing money. So it's mamon sheish lo tovin. I could demand that money from you." Right, and to do with mamon she'en lo tovin, that basically that nobody, the maim and the melach, right? You can't. If you already lent it, that's it. They can't demand money for it. So Amalei, so he comes and he tells them litamech, and according to your reason, hada amar chasta. This is that which chasta says. Nevela betela b'shchuta. If you have a piece of basar nevela that was mixed up with basar shechuta, it's batel. It's like it's completely batel. Why? But since there's no rov. So therefore, it's going to be batel. If a shechuta can never become a nevela. Remember, an animal which is shechuta means you did proper shechita. An animal that was done shechita can never become a nevela. Nevela means an animal, kosher animal, that it died without a proper shechita. So it's like a carcass of an animal, right? The majority of the times, if you go to Publix or all these places, they're not talking about, right, not kosher animals. The animal itself usually is kosher if it comes from obviously a cow, right? If it's coming from a horse, then no. But if it's coming from a cow, it's a kosher animal. But what is it? It's a nevelotu trefot. Nevela means it died without shechita. Terefa means that it was, even if it would have done a shechita, but it wouldn't have lived within the year. That's a trefa. A lot of people come and say, it's terefa. What's terefa? It's not terefa. Terefa means that it wasn't going to live a year. Maybe the cow was 100% healthy. Huh? Trefa is that it's not going to live a year. Says the Gemara, it cannot come that a shechita, that means an animal that had shechita becomes a nevela. Shechuta ena betela benevela. So therefore, a piece of basar shachut does not become batel, right, in nevela. It's not batel, right, but rather it always stays tahor. Okay, so lefi sheyev shal nevela shtatza shchuta. But also, right, since the majority is considered like a tarova mimimino, because a nevela could also not become a shechita. I mean, once an animal became a nevela, it can never become a kosher animal by doing shechita. Okay, so because of that, it's not going to be tameh anymore. Hachanami, so to hear the chi'it leba'alim lo batzlah. If you already have ba'alim to the basar nevela, so it will never become batel to the basar shochet mrubeh. Right. So according to this, anytime that you have a mute, that you have a minority, that you have owners, it's not batel berov. Why? Because it will never switch status. Meaning you will never switch status quo, right? Whether it's going to be to the kosher, to the non-kosher, non-kosher to kosher. Once it's shechuta, it can never become a nevela. Once a nevela, it will never become shechuta. Now, if you're going to tell me yes, right, that you're going to tell me that since it's mamon sheyesh lo tovim, it's not going to be batel. That Tanya we learned in a Beitzah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Menuri says Rabbi Yochanan Menuri, hefkeh hefker konin shvita. If you have property which are hefker on Yom Tov, so you found a hefker item. Hefker means ownerless item on Yom Tov. You're allowed to take it only within 2,000 amot of where you found it. Okay, that means even though you have an eruv somewhere else, you only have 2,000 amot to take it. Af al pi she'en lahem ba'alim, even though you don't have the owners. Domin k'mi sheyesh lahem ba'alim. So it's compared ki'ilu that they do have owners. Okay, so Amar le, so he comes and he tells them, Mi ka medamet isur lemamona. You're being medameh isur to mamon. One of them is isur. One of them is mamon. Isura batil, mamon lo batil. Isurim are batel. Money is never batel. So therefore, to do with the water and the salt, we don't say that it's batel, because that's going to be, right, that's what we're trying to say over here. That's going to be money. It's not isur. To do with isur, isurim are batelim, not money. What is the concept of isurim? Isurim means you have kosher, non-kosher. That's batel berov. You come and you say it's now in the minority, in the majority, so on and so forth. How much do you need to annul? Here it's money. Money is not annulled, right? If I've got $5 in a company and you've got $25,000 in a company, right? Am I annulled? No, but you've got 24,995 times more than I do. There's no such thing as batel in money. Money, you don't say bitul. You say bitul in isurim, but not in money. Okay? So he says, v'tamamai. What's the reasoning why there's no isur tchum by the water and the salt, batel beisa? Abaye says, gezerah shema ta'aseh isa b'shutafut. So gezerah, maybe you're going to make us an isa with a partnership. So that's why in the first sure that's going to be asur. So because of that, it's going to be problematic, right? Which means that here it says maybe once it's going to happen that you're going to make it by borrowing it, and then you're going to take the entire thing outside of the other tchum, and that's for sure going to be asur, right? Because it's like chavtzeh shutafut, it's like both of them together, and you took it completely out, so it's a problem. Rava says tavlin le ta'ama avide, ta'ama lo batil. Rava comes and he says a new reason. Here, what we were talking about, spices. Spices are meant to give taste, and something which is meant to give taste is not annulled, even if it's a minority. You understand? Which means sometimes remember, what's the reasoning why you're going to tell me something is batel? Because you don't taste it, right? If I'm going to give you a kosher piece of meat and a non-kosher piece of meat, they're both cow, right? You're not going to taste the difference. It's batel. And if you do taste the difference, then obviously you're not allowed to eat it. But if I mix them up, now you have 3 kosher pieces of meat and 1 non-kosher, 2 pieces of kosher, 1 non-kosher, go mixed up. You're not allowed to eat them together, but you can eat them one after another. Why? Annulled. But I don't know which one's which. You can't recognize it. But spices are meant to give a taste. If it's meant to give a taste, it's not annulled. Anything which is meant to give a taste is not annulled. Okay? Ravashi comes. We're just going to get to the 2 dots on the top of Masechet Aleph. Ravashi comes and he says, Mishun David Davar Shesh Lo Matirin. He says, no, there's another reason. You know why? It's Davar Shesh Lo Matirin. Something which has a permission. Anything which has a permission, even in 1,000, it's not going to be batel. Which means like this. For example, you have something which is called, whether it's going to be chametz pesach or other things as well, right? For example, let's say you have, let's say it's the chametz, right? Chametz, even in 1,000, it's not annulled. Why not? Very simple. Wait until after Pesach, and then you could eat it. Why are you going to permit you to eat it now? Chametz on Pesach. I was annulled. Yeah, but don't eat it today. Eat it tomorrow. An egg, Beitzah, that was born on Yom Tov. What do we say? Afilu be'elef, and he gets mixed up with another egg. What do we say? Afilu be'elef lo batel. Why afilu be'elef lo batel? One egg should be annulled. It's not another 2 eggs. 60 eggs. 101 eggs. Even in 1,000 lo batel. Why not? Very simple. Because wait until the day after Yom Tov. The day after Yom Tov, you could eat all of them beheter. If you could eat all of them with a permissible way, why am I going to permit you to eat it now with an isur? That I had to annul an isur. So because of that, there's a concept called davar sheyesh lo matin afilu be'elef lo batel. Here, in this case, since the melach and the tavlin, right, the reason why mayim and melach and tavlin and all these things are not going to be batel is davar sheyesh lo matin. Wait until tomorrow. The second becomes tomorrow. Right now, you could actually come and you could walk wherever you want with it. So that I'm not going to permit you now to say it's going to be batel, and then you could only walk this way, walk the other way. No. Tomorrow, walk wherever you want. So it's a davar sheyesh lo matin. Davar sheyesh lo matin, even in 1,000, it's not going to be batel. Okay, we're by the 2 dots. Tomorrow morning, we'll continue.